Let's look at the overview of charts and visualizations in Excel. Charts and graphs are the basic visualizations in Excel, and these are visual representations of data that help any analyst or a person reporting to convey information in a clear and concise manner. Charts and graphs are used to present data in a visually appealing and easily understandable format, allowing viewers to quickly grasp patterns, trends, relationships within data. For example, when you have data of different kinds, you find that you have many companies and you have data on their revenue, that is the amount of revenue that came into the company, how much is their earning or the net profit, and how many employees. When you have many companies, you will not be able to see which company is doing better on what. In here, we present such information in a bubble chart, whereby the bigger the bubble represents higher revenue. A higher performing company in terms of revenue is represented by the bigger bubble. Then you have number of employees on the horizontal axis, and that means that the more the bubble is pressed to the right, the higher the number of employees. Then we have profit, means that the higher the vertical position of the bubble on the chart, the higher the profit of the company. That is a bubble chart. Then we also have a line graph, as we can see different sectors and across different years, and we have how the production values or the gross domestic product values of the different sectors were performing across the years from 2019 to 2022. Then we also look at the pie chart. A pie chart is really a darling of many, and it's what many people must have studied from early elementary school. A pie chart is useful for displaying the proportions or percentages of different categories within a whole. So we can see that here we have buildings, mortgage, construction, and real estate sector, 22%. Then social sector, 26%. Then agriculture is taking 1%. And then we have food and beverages. Let's be able to compress it and see what's telling us. So we have trade taking 22%. Home products taking 10%. Then we have agriculture taking 15%. Then building and mortgages taking 26%. So basically, a pie chart shows the different proportions of the respective categories that are represented within the chart. This is a bar chart, basically similar to a column chart. Whereas a bar chart has bars moving horizontally, a column chart has bars moving vertically, and both the bar chart and the column charts are used to compare data across the different categories. And these charts are suitable when you want to compare data and contrast values or magnitudes across distinct categories. Column and bar charts are typically used for visualizing how the different categories are performing, and we have column charts showing vertical comparisons, while column charts would be showing horizontal comparisons. Then we have a combo chart. A combo chart basically combines different types of charts into a single visualization, allowing for the presentation of multiple data series and their relationships. For example, we have here a graph that shows the sales volumes, both in amounts, in terms of monetary values, and also in the number of sales made. So we can see that the monetary values are represented by columns, while the number of sales made by the company across the different years are showed by a line chart. Then finally, we have another very important visualization in the name of a box plot. A box plot is one of the very important but not well utilized visualizations in Excel. A box plot basically tells us about the skewness, the spread, the central tendency of a distribution. So you have a data set, for example, performance of students in class across different subjects, where you have a box per different subject. You can also use a box plot to analyze, for example, loan performance for the different products. You can analyze a box plot for different income for households or for the population across the different sectors of the economy. and you would want to see how incomes are distributed, how the grades are distributed. The key highlights of a box plot is that it shows the interquartile range, it shows the first quartile, the third quartile, it shows the median, and it shows the maximum, it shows the minimum, and also shows where there are outliers. And the box plot helps us to tell the central tendency of a distribution, whereby the median is the line within the box at the center of the box, which is the central tendency or the middle value of the dataset. And mean by default, in Excel, the box plot does not tell by default the mean of a distribution. However, as we shall see later, there is a check mark where the analyst can request that Excel includes mean manually in a box plot, and we shall be seeing that in terms of this star that is just around the median of a distribution. A box plot can also assess a spread, whereby we have the upper bound of a box being the third quartile, then the lower bound being the first quartile, and the sides of the box basically representing the interquartile range. Now, the position of the star, which represents the mean, relative to the line which represents the median, actually tells us about the central tendency of the distribution. Then we have whiskers. Whiskers are the horizontal lines at the bottom of the elongated line at both ends of the box. The upper one represents the maximum score and the lower one represents the minimum score. And in the event that a dataset has outliers, then we would be seeing outliers that lie outside the both ends of the whiskers. And any data points beyond the whiskers are considered outliers and can be displayed as individual points or data markers. Basically, outliers, like we can see, especially at the bottom of these distributions, these indicate extreme values that lie outside the typical range, and depending on what kind of data it is, then these could be mistakes or it could actually represent problem cases. If it is performance of a class, then it would probably imply that those students have specific and unique problems that need to be taken into consideration. Then a box plot also tells us about skewness and symmetry of a distribution. A symmetrical box plot with the median line in the center suggests a balanced distribution without significant skewness. For skewed distributions, if we have the median not centered and the box plot appears elongated towards one side, it indicates that there is skewness in the dataset. Positive skewness, which is a right skew, means that the tail of the distribution extends towards the higher values, while negative skewness means that the tail extends towards the lower values. By examining the elements of the box plot, including the median, the quartiles, the whisker, and outliers, an analyst can gain insight into central tendency, spread, and skewness of any data. So it is important that in any Excel enthusiast, and indeed any data analyst enthusiast, needs to really get used and acclimatize themselves to analysis using a box plot, as it really speaks a lot about the distribution of a data or a group of data, and this helps in understanding the kind of data that person is dealing with, or the kind of population or sample that is represented within a given data set. So this is briefly the overview of our charts. There are so many other charts in Excel, as we can see, but we have just looked at the most important ones. We have columns, lines, pie charts, bar charts, area charts, scatter charts. It's where we have picked our bubble chart. Then we have box and whisker, we have a combo, and basically we are going to look into detail of how each of these charts can be constructed and the most suitable data sets that can be represented using each of these visualizations, charts, and graphs.